Today, Ronda Rousey has announced that she will make her return to mixed martial arts. Only this time, it won't be for the UFC. It's going to be for MVP. And we ain't talking about no Michael Venom Page. Also, what about Sean Strickland, the former middleweight champion of the world, stepping back into the octagon with Fluffy Hernandez? Can Sean Strickland show that his championship win over Adesanya wasn't a fluke? Can he stop the current trajectory, which is only upward, of Fluffy Hernandez? Plus, who's Ronda Rousey fighting? All of this and more on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back at it. We right back with it. It's your boy Matt, and we are here to talk about huge news in the mixed martial arts world as Ronda Rousey, Rowdy Ronda Rousey, has announced she will be making her return for a fight coming up, I believe, in May of this year, in which she will step into the hexagon, I believe, against huge star from yesteryear, Gina Carano. We're going to lead off with this fight before we get into the UFC business, because this came out of nowhere. Nobody had this on their bingo card. If you've been following my channel for a while, then you know last year I was making videos about I believed that Ronda Rousey was going to make her return to mixed martial arts only at the UFC White House card. But in a wild twist, a wild turn of events, Ronda Rousey's going to make her return to mixed martial arts fighting under the MVP banner, which is the company ran by Jake Paul. And it's not going to be a boxing match. It's going to be an MMA fight. It's going to be shown live on Netflix coming up in May. And it's going to be against Gina Carano. Let's talk about a couple things real quick. Ronda Rousey has not had a true competition, fought in a real competition, because we're not counting WWE, in 10 years. Her last fight was a devastating loss against Amanda Nunes. Her previous fight before that was a devastating loss against Holly Holm. And now she will make her return to fighting. But wait, there's more. Gina Carano hasn't fought in mixed martial arts in 17 years. Her last fight was against Cyborg in Strikeforce, in which, I mean, she started out well, I guess you could say, in the first round, but the Cyborg, Cyborg beat the brakes off her, because this is a different Cyborg, all right? This ain't, if y'all new to the game and y'all only been seeing Cyborg, heaven forbid, if you've only seen Cyborg fight in PFL, all right? A little bit better if you saw Cyborg fight in the UFC, but you needed to be watching Cyborg fight in Strikeforce and Elite XE, because that was when Cyborg was going in there, ripped up, shredded, and was beating the brakes off of women. Beating the ever-loving, you could not go to breakaway to get these brakes put back on, right? You was not going to go to any, not no AutoZone. You wasn't going to, O'Reilly. You wasn't doing none of that, bro. When, back during this time, when Cyborg beat the brakes off of you, your brakes was gone. Don't go riding down the hill, because you're not going to be able to stop. Because that's the type of just brutality she was putting on women back in the day. So now, Ronda Rousey has announced that she's going to be coming back for this fight against Gina Carano. Now, if you're wondering why not the UFC, Ronda Rousey said that she approached the UFC about this, but the UFC didn't really want any parts of it. When you're like, well, why is Ronda doing this? Ronda Rousey claims, as she gets on her soapbox, that she's doing this for Gina Carano, because she saw an interview with Gina Carano. Gina looked out of shape. Ronda Rousey said she looked like she had put on a lot of unhealthy weight. And she felt like that Gina needed something to get her motivated to get her life back in order. Okay, Ronda. Okay, Ronda, thanks for being a good Samaritan and helping out Gina. But, okay, you know what I'm saying? So, she's claiming that that's her main primary reason for coming back, because Gina Carano was a huge inspiration for her. She wanted to fight her back in the day during her UFC run, as well as Gina has talked about this in Ariel Helwani interviews. But the UFC, for whatever reason, wasn't trying to make that fight, and that could never, that fight could never manifest itself. Well, now, years later, it will manifest itself on Netflix for Jake Paul's promotion, MVP. Let's just be real about this. When you look at the landscape of mixed martial arts outside the UFC, this is a win-win-win-win-win-win-win, and add on a few more W's for Ronda Rousey. Let's be real. Gina Carano, while she is one of the original pioneers of women's mixed martial arts, she was never blowing the doors off of anything. You know what I'm saying? That let's just be real, bro. She was a decent grappler. She sort of had hands. She had pretty good cardio earlier in her career, but she wasn't really, you can't really sit there and talk about Gina Carano and pinpoint something that she had that no one else had in the game. You see what I'm saying? Not to disrespect her, because she went out there and she got the wins. But her main selling point was that, let's be real, she was a good-looking lady in a time period in women's mixed martial arts where you didn't find that a lot until Ronda Rousey came along. And that's just what it is, right? So in my opinion, when you're looking at this, I believe Ronda Rousey looks like she's been in tremendous shape, at least for about the last year and a half, which is why everyone started, kind of started whispering about, hey, maybe she's going to come back to the UFC. Hey, maybe she's going to come back. Maybe she'll fight the White House card. You know what I'm saying? So, in my opinion, this is an easy win for Ronda Rousey. Gina Carano hasn't fought in 17 years. Gina Carano has had multiple issues with, let's just say she's had some issues with alcohol, different things over the years. Now, she has went to Hollywood. She's been in a lot of major movies. She was in Deadpool. She was in this. She was in that. She really made herself a pretty decent career, especially when she was on The Mandalorian. Now, she said a few things, that Disney didn't really like, and they booted her up out of there, and we haven't really seen her since. So, this will be interesting. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it. It's for free. If you count paying for Netflix free. It's for free. I'm going to watch it. But this is a win-win-win for Ronda Rousey. I believe that Ronda Rousey, in both of their primes, I think Ronda Rousey, and I'm not saying Ronda Rousey is a world beater, but in their primes, I think she would have beat the brakes off of Gina Carano. Let's be real, okay? So now, 17 years removed, and while Ronda is 10 years removed, Ronda has remained at a physical level in her life. Because, regardless of WWE and whatever you feel about it, and it's fake, and it's this and that, Ronda Rousey did that for a few years. She did it at a high level, and she had to be in she had to be in shape to be able to pull that off somewhat, at least in cardio shape. Right? And so now you see her, she's had children, and she's in tremendous shape. I believe she will go in there, she will defeat Gina Carano. And when I said a few minutes ago, we need to look at the landscape, after she beats Gina Carano, if I was Jake Paul, I would be beating down the doors. I would try to beat down the doors and put her on the same card that Ronda's fighting Gina on. I would go out there and I would secure Holly Holmes. I would secure Holly Holmes. Let's throw Ronda Rousey after she beats Gina Carano in the cage with Holly Holm. We get the rematch. Both of them are probably extremely comparable where they're at. I know Ronda Rousey hasn't had any real competition, and Holly Holm's still out there doing her thing. But something tells me that the matchup between these two would be a lot more even than it was in the past. So if I was Jake Paul, that's what I'd be looking to do. If I was Cyborg, I would be trying to figure out a way to get out this contract, to get out this deal with the PFL, so she too could also make her way over there and see what's going on with that MVP money on Netflix. That's just what it is. The bout right now is currently scheduled at 145 pounds. We'll see how this goes. But just had to start off with that Ronda Rousey making a return after 10 years against Gina Carano, who hasn't fought in 17 years. So, overall, I think it's a win money-wise for Jake Paul, to be real with you. Let's move over. Let's shift gears. Let's move over to the UFC, where they're offering this weekend. They're going to be at the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas. This ain't Texas. They're going to be there. And in the main event, Sean Strickland makes his return into the octagon against Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. Now, I ain't going to hold y'all. This is probably going to be a scrap card. This looks like it's going to have a few scraps on it, right? But I ain't going to hold y'all. I'm only going to talk about a few fights I really want to see on the main card. But with this main event, I'm definitely not going to hold you. I got Anthony Fluffy Hernandez all day. I think that Sean Strickland proved to be a tremendous fighter, especially when we saw him go out there and beat the brakes off Israel Adesanya, which literally was one of my happiest moments, because I could not wait. Nothing makes me happier than to see Israel Adesanya lose a fight. It whitens my teeth. I love it. But I feel like Sean Strickland showed that he is, I'm saying he's the best fighter. I'm not saying he's a top of the list, top 5 fighters. But he showed that he possesses a specific stand-up technique that is hard for some fighters to figure out, and it's hard for some fighters to move past, right? But that don't mean nothing against Fluffy Hernandez. Now, I know Fluffy's coming off of literally, melting a few fools, I should say. Recently, his last entering was against Roman Dolidze, which, I mean, he might have retired Roman Dolidze, the beating he put on him. But here's the thing, man. Anthony Hernandez has really quick, really fast hands on the feet. He's scrappy. He's not scared to get hit. So if Sean Strickland wants to try to keep this on the feet, which we all know that he does, Fluffy ain't no slouch in that particular arena. In that particular level of the game, he's not no slouch. But what is key is that his stand-up is completely designed for him to get in close quarters with you. And once he gets in close to where he can get his hands on you, he's a tremendous wrestler. He could easily take you down to the ground. And of course, his bread and butter is wrestling and grappling. And just in my opinion, I know they always talk about Sean Strickland's so good at takedown defense. Sean Strickland is hard to get on the ground. He's a tremendous wrestler. He just never really needs to show it. I believe that if those rumors are true, they've been saying this for years, Eric Nixick and everybody, if it's true, it's going to be put to the test in this. I feel like Fluffy Hernandez goes out there. I feel like he gets Sean Strickland. I feel like he gets it. Now, the real question is, does he finish him or does he win a 5-round decision? Sean Strickland's tough, bro. He's a tough dude. He can take a beating. So I don't feel like Fluffy's going to finish him, but I definitely think he cruises his way to a 5-round decision. Because I just don't think that Sean Strickland is a good enough defensive wrestler or defensive grappler to match what Fluffy's going to put on him on the ground. I just don't see that. This man, he never gets tired. He's got cardio for days. I know Sean Strickland's got cardio as well, but this man's got wrestling grappling cardio, which is something that we could see sap all the energy of Sean Strickland. So I just don't see Sean Strickland being able to go out there and have any real danger for Fluffy. Yes, Sean Strickland can throw them hands when he's on the feet, but if your name isn't Israel Adesanya, you're probably not going to get rocked or knocked out. You know what I'm saying? So, in my opinion, Anthony Hernandez goes out there and gets a pretty convincing 5-round decision over Sean Strickland. Let's move on. Let's talk about the co-main event. Jeff Neal steps in the octagon with Uros Medic. Man, you know, Jeff Neal ranked number 12 in the welterweight division. I'm going to go along with Jeff Neal to go out there and get the win. I know he's coming off of getting waxed by Carlos Prates, but Jeff Neal is one of those tricky fighters because he's not really flashy. He doesn't really stay active enough year-round to where you keep noticing him, but he has a really good skill set. It's like he has a level up of a journeyman skill set. In a way, and I'm not trying to disrespect the legend, he's almost like a Michael Bisping. Nowhere near as good as Michael Bisping, so let's not act like I'm out here serving Michael Bisping. You know, shout out to him, former middleweight champion of the world. But back in the day, you used to watch Michael Bisping fight, and he was very well-rounded. But he wasn't nobody that you're like, oh, this dude, he's definitely going to be a champion one day. You just didn't really see it. Now, a little bit later in his career, he did start to put it together, at least enough to where he got the fight with Luke Rockhold and went out there and became the middleweight champion. I feel like Jeff Neal definitely has a skill set in which he can go out there and against a guy like Uros that has done pretty decent in the UFC, but at the same time, he hasn't had the strength of schedule that Jeff Neal has. And Jeff Neal is always going to show up. Now, sometimes he might miss weight, but he's still going to show up. And I feel like it's not flashy. It's not, you know, I wouldn't say Jeff Neal is out here being anybody's favorite fighter. Ain't nobody got a Jeff Neal poster up on their wall. But I feel like Jeff Neal goes out there and gets the job done. Let's move on to a similar fighter in the next fight. Dan Ige steps in there against Mequinzel Costa. Man, I'm going to go along with Dan Ige. I know Costa has been on a run. I know he's shown us a lot of skills. The man is a finisher when he wants to be. Tremendous on the feet and outstanding on the ground because he usually can cinch up very tricky submissions from very weird angles. And to keep it all the way gangster, his stand-up also comes from very weird, very awkward angles. But Dan Ige, like Jeff Neal, has been around the block. He's faced a who's who. When you look at his tapology, he has faced a who's who in the sport. Tremendous strength of schedule, and I feel like 50K, Dan Ige gets the job done. I actually think he finishes Costa. He's quiet, he's unassuming, but he has a tremendous skill set. Now, his last fight, he goes out there, he took a L against Pitbull, and I get it. He didn't really look the best in that fight, but another thing about Dan Ige is when he goes out there and he doesn't look good, you best believe he comes back finely tuned in his next fight after his loss. So I'm going to go along with him to go out there and get the win. Next, we got Sergey Spivak versus Ante Delija. You know, I know Ante, we've been making fun of him. He's coming off of that loss against my guy Waldo Cortez Acosta, but and I know Sergey Spivak is a tremendous grappler. So if this goes to the ground, Delija could be in trouble. But I think Delija, you know, still in the gym. And even though, you know, he's not active right now, still trains with Tom Aspinall. You know, Tom Aspinall is still out. But what training he can do, he's still doing. You know what I'm saying? I know he's having a lot of issues with his vision and his distance perception, different things like that. You know, his timing is a little bit off, but he's still in the gym. And if anything, having the heavyweight champion of the world in your gym definitely lends a lot of wisdom to Delija out there training. So I'm going to go along with him to go out there and defeat Sergey Spivak and bounce back. Let's talk about Jacob Smith. Stepping in the octagon with Josiah Harrell. Josiah, making his debut here in the UFC. He was supposed to fight a few years ago. He had some sort of a heart issue, and he wasn't able to fight. So now he is making his return, even though he hasn't fought yet, for the UFC, and he's stepping in there against Jacob Smith. Look, I feel like this is a fight that the UFC is set up for Jacob Smith to win and for him to showcase some of his talent. So I got to go along with him. He's got 2 wins in the UFC. They haven't necessarily completely blown the doors off of everybody, but I think the dude is talented. Looks good getting off the bus. Tremendous grappler. Dynamite in his hands. I think he goes out there and gets the win. Finally, last fight I'm going to highlight, which is the opening fight on the main card. Zachary Reese stepping in the octagon with Michel Pereira. Michel Pereira at one point, bro, was a fighter that once he dialed in his weight cut and those issues, you felt like you were watching a guy that was destined to be a champion. Something broke in that man. I don't know what it is, but it's like he's got 1 to 2 minutes worth of cardio, and then he's tired, he's sucking wind, he's huffing and puffing. But also in his last fight, and a little bit in his fight before that, he seems like, but definitely in his last fight, he seems like he's hesitant to pull the trigger. And I don't know if that's because he's gassed out in multiple fights, so he's scared to mash on that gas and try to go out there and really put a pace on anybody. Or I don't know if he's kind of having issues like what happened to Francis Ngannou when he fought Derek Lewis, where after you've been humbled, he got humbled by Stipe Miocic, and he didn't really have it. He was scared of gassing out against Derek Lewis, and he was scared to get hit with those shots and be devastated on the ground and be embarrassed again. And I don't know what disconnection has happened in the mind of Michel Pereira, but he just hasn't been the same for like the last 3 or 4 fights, if not more. You know what I'm saying? And that last fight, it was different. It wasn't just that his cardio wasn't good, which is what has always been his Achilles heel. It was the fact that he looked like he was scared to pull the trigger and throw hands. So there's plenty of points in Michel Pereira's career and Zach Reese's career where it's like, look, dude, there ain't no way I'm choosing Zach Reese over Michel Pereira. But this version of Michel Pereira, I just don't see it. And Zach Reese is not the best fighter at all, by no means. He struggles a lot. But if Michel Pereira goes out there and he can't pull the trigger, it's Zach Reese all day. And that's who I'm going to pick. But could this be the fight where Michel Pereira finally decides he's going to let his hands go and we see a taste of what he used to be? I don't really know. Usually Zach Reese starts quickly. Usually he goes out there, he's ready to let them hands fly early and try to knock his opponent out. And if Michel Pereira is hesitating and he doesn't pull the trigger, I think he gets knocked out. I think he gets finished. I'm going to go along with Zach Reese to go out there. It pains me, but I got to choose Zach Reese to go out there and defeat Michel Pereira. So please let me know what you think. How do you feel about Ronda Rousey making her return against Gina Carano? Because it's a weird fight. It's not a fight that I'm super excited for, but I will watch. But something feels a little bit off about it, especially because Gina ain't fought in 17 years. But in my opinion, I think it's kind of a setup, and it gives time for Jake Paul to acquire someone else, probably Holly Holm, for Ronda Rousey to actually fight. I think this is just to get her in there, let her get a feel for being back in fighting competition again. She goes out there, she defeats Gina Carano, probably in the first round, and then moves forward from there. So we'll see what happens, man. Let me know what you think about that. Let me know who you got in the main event between Sean Strickland and Fluffy Hernandez. I personally don't see a way Sean Strickland defeats Fluffy, but we'll see how that goes. Let me know what you think about a lot of these fights on the main card or what fights you're looking for. Please like, subscribe, comment. I appreciate all the love here recently on the channel. And once again, I do want to thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Matter of fact, MMA. And I'll check you next time.